Welcome, everyone, to episode 39 of the Looks Like a Movie podcast. My name's Kevin. I'm here with Doug, and we don't have Owen today, but we're going to be talking about Sofia Coppola's new film, Priscilla, which just came out in theaters and is an A24 movie, so it's not struck. Doug, you liked this movie. I would go as far as to say that I really liked it. I'd go as far as to say it's one of my favorite movies of the year.
Okay.
So where do we want to start?
How much did you know about the real life person Priscilla Presley before watching this movie?
Um, I think, and actually, this is something I wanted to mention that I have in my notes. I don't know all that much about her, but I think it's kind of interesting that the movie doesn't give us all that much about her either, and kind of like positions the viewer in like the same position that I guess people like in the public kind of always have been, where it's just like she's famous in relation to Elvis.
Right.
Um, so it's like because you know what I mean? Like everybody knows who she is. Um, I would imagine. I don't think too many people aren't aware of her existence.
I mean, a lot
Um,
of people probably like know her name, you know what I mean?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I wasn't alive at the height of her fame, so I don't know like all that much. But I knew that I knew her relationship to Elvis, and I knew that there is obviously, as the movie exposes, a lot of problematic elements of that relationship,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
which like is the entire framing of the movie. Obviously, the movie is framed where we see from the very beginning how Elvis kind of grooms Priscilla into like this ideal housewife for him to come home to, where he can go and do his big concerts and meet various women and have this kind of child who is going to grow up inside Graceland, and he can kind of like transform into his perfect image of what he wants a housewife to be.
Yeah.
um
It's like it's all about the whole thing's about Priscilla, child bride of Elvis.
yeah,
Because the movie because you know how like the Baz Luhrmann Elvis film is it's a life to death biography of Elvis Presley.
right.
This is an Elvis to Elvis biography of Priscilla, where it's like the movie starts when Priscilla meets Elvis,
Yeah,
and the movie
and
ends when
when
she
she leaves him.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's I mean, you already said like the fact that it's like child. There's a lot of like things in this movie that I think Sofia Coppola does to like really hammer home like how young Priscilla is.
They make her look really young
I
at like the
mean,
beginning of the film.
there's not even just
Like
that, but I think even throughout the movie, the fact that like ended up with the two actors that she ended up with, and the fact that Jacob Elordi is, like whatever, like 6'4" or something, and
yeah.
Kaylee Spaney is like, I think 5 feet flat.
Yeah,
So
probably.
she just looks like tiny next to him, which I know that that's not like the actual gap between Elvis and Priscilla in real life. I know that they were, I mean, obviously she was shorter than him, but it's not like that significant. But when you see it in the movie, like he looks huge compared to her. Like
Yeah.
she looks like a fucking, well, I mean, she is a child, but she also looks like a child. And I think something that I noticed pretty early on was like how immediately uncomfortable, like the film doesn't really, I don't know. Like, well, this was expected, but there's not really a point in the movie where Elvis is painted in a good way at all. Um,
Um
and
well, there's a little bit of I don't know. It's kind of interesting because it's like I feel like the movie's probably trying to be kind of accurate, you know? Because I
sure,
think it would be very easy for a different filmmaker to make a movie like this and make Elvis more of a monster, you know? And like
yeah,
more of a crazy, like
there,
horrible
yeah, there could
creature.
be more
Like
violent outbursts or more, I get what you're saying.
yeah, but like the only like, the worst part is like when he throws the chair at her,
Yeah,
right?
which is a hard scene to watch.
Yeah, it's
Um,
crazy, especially in the like when you're watching it. It's like that's like so like what like
yeah, but I
you have
think
problems, dude. That was so uncalled
yeah,
for.
no, it was really bad. But also, what I think what I mean is that like and I hope that this isn't really the interpretation that people have, but there are like scenes in the movie that are, you know, supposed to be like these moments of joy, right? Or like like depictions of like them being romantic together or whatever. But I think from like the very beginning, she does a good job establishing like how creepy and awful he is, because like even before, you know, he hurls a chair at her or like gets violent or whatever, like one of like the first lines he has in the movie is him talking to her and being like, oh, you're so mature for your age. Like it's like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like pretty immediately, like, and really all of it, like most of his lines in the movie are him saying things like that. Like there's not many times where he's talking to her and saying something that isn't like really fucking gross. So I think what I meant is that even in like these moments that are, you know, seemingly supposed to be like, you know, good, like joyful moments, it still feels bad. Like
It,
there's, for me at least, I never felt like it was anything other than really gross.
the film kind of feels like it's like Priscilla is one of Elvis's demons, right? But it's like we're watching the movie from like this like metaphorical demon that is just a real person, and how like that how is like, oh, like this is like one of my vices is having, you know, needing to have this child bride. And it's like, okay, well, how does your fucking child bride feel, you know? That's like really
Yeah.
fucking alone and weird and like you
Yeah, I
know,
think
like
that whole I think I mean, and we could get into this because I think like especially like Graceland kind of serves as like a character and like a third character in the
yeah,
movie where
it's
like
a prison.
she's like absolutely trapped there. And I think that I mean I would say at least that I think Sofia Coppola does a really good job kind of trapping us with her. And like you mentioned, the loneliness, and it's like that's what it feels like. There's just a lot of mundanity. Like she's depicting the life of somebody who the public saw as super famous, as somebody who is really bored and unhappy and lonely and can't do anything but sit around and wait for Elvis to come home.
Yeah. Well, it's like because Elvis has put her in a situation where like her purpose in life has to be him, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like that's like already problematic, of course, but it gets
Uh,
even harder because when she is like open to that and like it's like, okay, like I can accept that responsibility. It's like he is not reciprocating her needs that need to come along with that being the case for her as like a human being, you know? Like he's
yeah.
not like talking to her and treating her like a person and like,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
um
Yeah, and I think it I think it's interesting to talk about this movie in relation to, I guess, like the legacy of Elvis, because obviously the movie's about Priscilla, but like it's also about Elvis in a lot of
that's the
ways.
thing where a lot of
Um
people, I think, because people bring it up or bringing up Baz Luhrmann's Elvis film a lot
yeah, which
in
I was
relation to
gonna
this on
ask you
Twitter.
about later on as well. I have some
Oh,
notes about that, but
which I think that the backlash to that is annoying because there's a lot of people being like, this movie's not about Elvis at all. It's about Priscilla, and it's like the movie's about Elvis.
it's
You
still,
know,
yeah, it's still
like
about Elvis. Yeah.
every single piece of dialogue is about Elvis. Every person that she talks to, she's talking to about Elvis. It's like the,
Yeah.
you know, like if Priscilla's not in the shot, if Priscilla's not a character in the shot, then Elvis is the character in the shot. You know, it's like it's very much a movie about Elvis as well.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's what I was gonna like. I was gonna say, because I think one of the things, if we're, and we don't really like, this isn't what I was gonna bring up, but I guess in comparing it to like last year's Elvis, obviously like that movie, like you said, is a retelling of really his entire life, and this one is, you know, just like this span of Priscilla's involvement in his life from her perspective, and really the only thing that it gives us are, like, we don't see Elvis concerts. We don't. I guess there's one scene where you like kind of see it, but not really. Like, we don't really see all of like the things that people have come to know Elvis for. And I think it's interesting because, like, for us as like young people on the internet, and maybe a lot of like our young peers, like, we probably have heard about some of these like more problematic elements of their relationship. But I do think, like, generally the worldview on Elvis is probably up to this day still pretty positive, like as far as his legacy goes.
Yeah.
So
Like I think that the Baz Luhrmann movie does a is a pretty good job at showing like what the Elvis's legacy is, which is like kind of like
yeah,
this mythological guy with a lot of like vices and like problems,
yeah,
but
exactly.
ultimately he is a tragic character. And in this movie, it's like it's not really it's obvious and it shouldn't be, but it's like the movie is not interested in him being like a tragic figure as much as it's just like interested in the reality of Priscilla's life with him, which is from Priscilla's perspective, it's like he's a drug addict. It doesn't matter why, right? But he's
Yeah,
a drug addict. He's a deadbeat.
yeah,
He's like
abusive.
yeah, abusive, It's like
Yeah,
he's not interested in like the why Elvis is like this or like and like even if that is kind of like an interesting thing, maybe it's more so it's like, he was just a bad guy, bad
yeah.
husband. Like
Yeah, which is like one of the things I was going to bring up is that I think, because I kind of noticed this, and I think some people might have this reaction to it, which is that like there's, like, when we talk about like all of these things, from like the chair throwing to like, like all of the stuff that he says, like, I could imagine that in a different movie, that something like showing us like this side of a character this many ways, this many times over, like repeating it like that, might feel like tedious or like unnecessary. But I feel like in this case, it's the opposite, because you look at a movie like Elvis from last year, which, like, Priscilla's barely in that movie. And like we talk about like this kind of, like the scope of his legacy, which like ultimately is pretty positive. So I don't really care that they kind of like hammer home this point over and over again, because I think it makes sense. And I think some of the people who have like that view of his legacy might need to have that challenged,
yeah, I
because
mean, I think that it's I don't know. It's in the movie he's just a or
yeah, well,
burps
it's
into the
because, I mean, I
microphone.
don't know. No, but I mean, it's like, because even when you think about his legacy, and like I mean, they do a good job depicting, like, in last year's Elvis movie, that like, he was very involved because of his contemporaries in the music industry in like the civil rights movement. And it's like a lot of like people can point to these like very positive things about his legacy, you know what I mean? In terms of like
Yeah.
who he was, and kind of like even like some of his more heroic actions. So this
Yeah,
just
there's
kind of
the what's
foregoes it
the
completely.
Doja Cat scene in the Baz Luhrmann
Oh
Elvis
god.
where it's like it's basically like, oh, he loves black people music so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Um
Um I don't know. I think it's worth pointing out, because I think so much of like even the good of Elvis that gets talked about is, like stuff like that, where it's like there's a lot that people have to point to, and this movie doesn't really um give you that. And I think another thing that I wanted to talk about, that I like really noticed, was how some of the more significant life events for Priscilla are just taken away from her, and then like as a result, in how they're displayed in the movie, taken away from us, where like she has her high school graduation, but we don't see her high school graduation. She just, like,
right,
we know that she goes to it, and then we see what happens after. And
right.
like she has a child, but we don't see her give birth to her child. We just see that, oh, now she has a baby, like that kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like these like milestone moments of your life
Well,
that,
it's focused on these like the really depressing parts of it,
yeah,
which is like the the artifice and the reality, like the shot of her being like, I'm having the baby, and it's like she's up putting on the false
I
lashes.
was literally just about that's my favorite scene in the movie. I mean,
Yeah.
I was in the theater like ready to break down and like I felt so low watching that scene. Like it's such a tough scene to watch for me, and I was even thinking about it when I got home. Like that was the thing I was going to mention was that like because I knew I liked the movie when like as soon as the movie ended, I knew I liked it, and of course I liked it as I was watching it. But then I kind of like got home and took some time and was like reflecting on what I just watched as I was like gonna type up a review, and I was like, I just started crying. I was like, oh,
Oh
this
my
shit is
God.
really fucking sad.
No, yeah, it is
Like
really sad.
not that it wasn't sad as I was watching it, but you know what I mean? I think like as I thought about like the larger scope of it and just like this idea of like like having your whole life taken away from you from that early of an age and just like not having any personhood at all really until you
Yeah.
split from your marriage. Um yeah, it's fucking depressing and the movie like does a really good job displaying that.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's really, it's kind of like the perspective of, well, I don't know if I should say that. It's yeah, I mean, she's not a person, and like that's like why she leaves him. It's because she is like, she's like,
Yeah, and that's what I saw, and I don't know, I think I saw I don't know if you said this in your review or if I know I saw it in some other people's reviews, like, I know, our friend Sydney mentioned, like, the karate thing, like, how she would have liked to see more of, like, the karate stuff, and it's like,
Yeah.
I think the fact that we don't really, like, linger on these scenes or we don't really, like, get to see all that much of her personality makes sense, and I think it's like you could even bring up kinda how the movie transitions through time, like it's not even a 2-hour movie, but, we watch kind of seamlessly as it transitions from,
Which, like,
a
like 20
a
years go
period of
by,
years.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, like so that's what I'm saying. I think not really putting any focus into these details and, like, not really giving us any idea of, like, what her personal life is separate from Elvis and her relationship to him makes sense in, like, what the movie's trying to say. So I guess I could see how that might bother some people.
Yeah, I mean, I understand if like, that's that's a very like, I want the movie to be different, kind of thing, because it's
Sure.
like it totally changes kind of like the thematic weight of the film if we do get like an extended period of her getting really into karate, and
Yeah.
maybe may or may not be having an affair with her karate instructor, and
Right.
like having friends and stuff, like, because it's not about Priscilla, the the human being that like lived during these years. It's totally about Priscilla, the shell of the human in Elvis's fucking prison. That's what the movie is kind of about. Like,
Yeah.
and it's all about like this, like the loneliness of being this,
Yeah.
this person in this situation.
Yeah. It's tough. I don't know. I'm trying to think because there's a couple like specific scenes I guess, um but that one with the lashes was really the one that I think affected me the most. And there's like I don't know. There's some. There's just a lot of like tough scenes of how like I guess I'm thinking of the one scene where she is kind of like I don't know what it is exactly, but there's like an office in the house, right? Where like these two ladies are working
Yeah, it's like the
and
mailroom,
yeah, like the mailroom or something, and she's, like, talking to them, and then
and
she
they're
gets
like having
kicked out by
fun.
Elvis's
Yeah.
father, and he, like, yells at her, and there's, like, a sign that says, like, "You're not allowed to spend any time in there." I'm like, it really, like it really is, like, miserable, like, it
Yeah.
really
Well,
feels like a prison.
and like two scenes earlier, the same, he was like, you can't bring, like, strangers aren't allowed in Graceland, like, like you
Yeah,
can't bring any friends over. And then it's like we cut to her and she's like trying to make friends while being in Graceland, and it's like, you can't do that either. And it's like, okay, and Elvis is never fucking here, so it's like, I guess I should just die. It's like, what the
yeah.
fuck am I supposed to
Do
do?
you know at all how, like, over this span of time, like, what her communication with her parents was like? Because I thought that was an interesting part of the movie that, like, once she moves to Graceland, her parents just aren't really in the movie.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean that's it, because it really it feels like it's like there's that scene when she first gets to Graceland and Elvis isn't there, right? Because
Yeah,
he's shooting a movie and she's talking to Elvis on the phone and she's like, "Hey, I was thinking about getting like a job part-time." And
yeah,
Elvis was like, "Don't worry about that." And she was like, "No, like I think it would be fun." And Elvis is like, "No, I mean, I need you to be
yeah.
here in
Like
case I call." And I'm like, "What?
it's
What?"
crazy. That's what I
Like,
mean. I mean, there's so many specific moments that you could see him like molding like this exact thing that he wants. Like, oh, there's also that scene with the dresses that was just like where he's telling her that like certain dresses, like she can't wear
like
certain
using her
dresses,
like a
and
fucking
then he
like
tells her to
Barbie
dye the
doll.
yeah, he tells her to
Yeah.
dye her hair, obviously, and like all of this stuff. Like it's just like it's so I mean, that's what I mean. It's really fucking sad.
Yeah, just taking
Um
out all of the agency he possibly can out of her life. It's like, I mean,
yeah.
it's really the movie is like they really do make him look like which is it's probably accurate. It's mostly but that also it doesn't matter
Yeah.
if it's accurate or not. It's a fucking movie. But it's like the movie's really is about like this relationship where this guy is just super abusive. You know,
Yeah, and that's what I
like
meant
real
where like you
abuse.
said
Like
it could have like done something to, make things up and like make him more violent or whatever. Like it doesn't have to because like
yeah.
what it does give us is really fucked up and likely true. Um so I don't know that it has to like go to any further limits because it's fucking hard to watch. Like it's really fucking difficult. The thing that I wanted to ask you about, or not ask you about, but because you mentioned last year's Elvis movie, and I think the greater conversation that I've been seeing, of course, is people comparing Jacob Elordi's Elvis to Austin Butler's Elvis,
Oh,
which
that's
I
so
think is like
stupid. That's so stupid.
not a good. It's yeah, I think it's dumb. And I
Like
think
so many people I've seen like I think there's this TikTok right now that has like 1 million likes that I saw. I think it has literally 1 million likes. That said, "Thank God that Jacob Elordi came out and proved that Austin Butler didn't need to be doing all of that." And
yeah,
I'm
I was
like,
gonna bring up that exact thing, or I thought I saw a tweet or something about it, where like people are saying like, "Oh, like you didn't have to do all this because like Jacob Elordi didn't method
bro,
act and he did it better." It's
I'm
like no,
I'm sorry.
he.
Jacob Elordi's accent is all fucking over the place in this movie, dude. He's
I don't.
all over the
Honestly,
place.
I thought he was good in the movie.
I thought he was
I
yeah.
just think it's a weird way to position it, where you see him in this movie, and then your response is like, "Oh, that other guy didn't have to devote himself to his role that got him an Oscar nomination." Because this guy did it better, which I don't even think he did it better. But like putting that
Well, it's
aside,
also
even
it's
if you
like
did, it's just a dumb thing
that's
to
not
say.
how
Like,
comparing performances works either, because
yeah,
it's like the Baz Luhrmann movie is, 2.5 hours long, and it's Austin Butler doing like this physical transportation
yeah, like you
and
see the
transformation.
music and the performances and like
Yeah.
all of this stuff, and you don't like Jacob Elordi's not doing that. Like,
And in
it's a
this one, Jacob Elordi, he's just being Jacob from Euphoria with an Elvis accent, like he's
okay. I mean, I don't know if I'd say that.
no, but you know what I mean. He's just playing like an abusive
Yeah.
boyfriend. Like he's
Okay, okay. I was like, wait a second, what are you saying? But that makes sense, actually. No, that's a good point.
um
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's weird to make the comparison, and I think it's specifically just an. I think my big annoyance with it is that is using this as a means to discredit Austin Butler's performance. I know that I mean, you like the Elvis movie more than this movie, right?
I
Um,
listen, we don't need to
not like you
I
don't have
don't
to
think it's an
compare, but I'm saying
appropriate
no, but I'm
comparison.
saying like you like the Elvis movie,
Yeah, I like the
and
Elvis
like
movie. Yeah.
I like it a good deal too. Like I like the movie. I don't think it makes sense to just like shit on Austin Butler's performance that I think is like a really good performance. I know some people I know there's
Yeah,
a number of people who think it's not.
I like it. I like silly things also, and I think he's very silly and earnest in it. You
Sure,
know,
yeah,
like
yeah. I don't know. I just, yeah, I think Austin Butler is quite good, and I don't know that it really makes sense to have this conversation, but and especially I think it's kind of an annoying conversation to have in regards to like this movie. You know what I mean? Like because of everything we just talked about for the previous 20 minutes to like come out of this movie and like the big conversation topic you want to have is like, oh, Jacob Elordi did it better. Like after everything you just watched for 2 hours is
well, that's also like that's
like
like
I don't
man,
know why that's
people
the conversation that is kind of in the
people
spirit right
hate
now.
women. Am I right? Like people
Yeah,
fucking hate
okay.
women. No, I'm so serious because it's like what's the actress's name? Is it's Kaylee
Haley
or
Spaney.
Kaylee Spaney? Yes. She's fucking really good in this movie. Like she's like really
Yeah, I
really
mean
really
she
good in
okay,
this
and
movie.
that's what I was going to bring up next because I wanted to talk about both performances. I mean she's the standout for all the like talk that Jacob Elordi's getting. Like she's the better performance.
Yeah.
She's a
There
great performance and
there's
probably an
yeah,
Oscar nominee this year, possibly. Like
probably. Well,
it's
I don't know how much this weighs when we talk about like the looking at like award pundits or
right, right,
whatever,
right,
but
sure.
it's didn't she won standout actress at the Palme d'Or, not the Palme
Yeah.
d'Or, at what's it, Cannes, at
Yeah,
the Cannes
Ken.
festival.
Yeah. Yeah, I
um
mean, I know she's being talked about as a potential nominee. Obviously, that's like, from what I've heard, kind of one of, if not the most loaded category this year is Best Actress, but she certainly has a chance. So I feel like, and especially because this is kind of a major role for her, like for her career,
it's the
I think
biggest. I
it's,
think I looked at her
yeah,
filmography. It's like the
I mean,
biggest
it's her
thing
biggest
by a
role to
lot.
date for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. It
it's like her
deserves way more
only
attention. I mean, listen, I
lead.
get that Jacob Elordi is a huge star, right? Like, of course, it was bound that he was going to be. I mean, they even talked about Sofia Coppola, even talked about like, and a number of other people talked about how like at the red carpet events, like it's like stuff you haven't experienced before, where you see these people freaking out when they see Jacob Elordi because he is like a capital S
He
star.
yeah,
But
he's becoming he's becoming an A-lister. He's like getting up
yeah,
there.
yeah.
And this is
So,
also, we're kind of like in the year of Elordi right now with
oh
Priscilla
yeah, I
and
mean,
Saltburn, and we're gonna have Canada come out next year. It's
no,
like
and he has that other I don't know if it comes out this year or next year, but that I forget what it's called, but there's a movie that I saw he was in the trailer for. Um oh, I can't remember the name, so we won't dwell on it too long. But he has another movie coming out either at the like before this year ends or sometime next year. So he is like in a lot right now.
yeah, no, which is
Like
good
he
because he's a
is
good actor.
active. Yeah,
He's
no,
really
he's a
good.
great actor. Yeah, and he's like, working with good directors. Like he just made a movie with Sofia Coppola. Like
He just finished a
he's
movie with
picking
fucking Paul
good
Schrader.
project. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Like he's
like
picking good projects. So that's like exciting. I just think that it's, I guess, frustrating to not see. Which obviously, when the Oscars come around, I imagine if she does get nominated, there'll be much more attention on Kaylee Spaney, and like maybe she'll get that recognition that she's not getting right now. But
imagine Jacob
um,
Elordi gets a
oh,
supporting
stop
actor
it,
knob and she
stop
doesn't
it.
get a lead actress knob.
It's. I don't think it happens. I don't think it happens. But is he even being talked about as like a potential supporting actor
I don't. I'm
nominee?
not. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's like a conversation that's happening. Which like I guess if it is, it's not like I don't know how deep that category goes. Like I guess it's possible, but I would be pretty pissed off if that's like a reality that we live in that he gets a nomination and she doesn't. I don't think that that happens. I think that would be pretty fucked up.
How
Is
did you?
there? Oh, what were you gonna say?
So, how did you feel about the look of the film? Because it's
I
very
like
much like
the
this
yeah, it's like a
pastel
fairy
dream.
tale kind of
Like
like
yeah,
yeah. I dig it. I really like. I mean, it's like I obviously have to watch more of Sofia Coppola's movies, and I do want to like really soon after watching this, like as immediately as I can, watch Marie Antoinette, which is the one that I get told by the most people is the one that I would like the most.
yeah. It's Girl
So
Boss.
yeah, I want to watch
Like
that one for
yeah.
sure. And my understanding is that, this style is not something that new for Sofia Coppola. Like she can do this and make it look good, and I think it does look good. Because I know you uh mentioned in your review that you have some problems with the lighting, but I think
I don't think it's like wrong or bad. I necessarily it's more so I tried to be really careful about the way I worded it. It was like I was
yeah,
watching the movie and I was kind of paying attention to some of the cinematography choices, and the lighting stuck out to me in a way that I was like, I would not have done this. You know what I mean? Like I would not have
sure.
lit this scene like this, and it
Where
was a
like
little
the
distracting for me.
Yeah, I get what
Like,
you're saying, and I think since I saw your review before I watched the movie, it was something that I maybe paid more attention to than I guess I would have initially. But I don't know that I really have a problem with any of like those brightly lit rooms because I
yeah,
do kind of like how um like obviously we've talked already about how the movie is kind of like trapping us in this prison with her. Like I
right,
do kind of like that there's these bright lights outside that kind of like remind us how close we are to the outside without
right.
ever actually going there because she's trapped. Um, I don't know that that's the like decision on Sofia Coppola's part, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was. Like it makes, I mean, obviously, like she's a very talented director. I wouldn't be surprised if this is something that she thought out to have the rooms that brightly lit. I think it works. I think it's fine. And I think the pastels and the look of the film is great. I think like the actual sets, like the like all the Graceland stuff is really well done. Uh
You know what? I'm a little all over the place because now I'm talking back about the theme of the film. But you know what I think is kind of like an interesting companion to this film?
uh
I'm thinking of Ending Things.
okay.
I think is kind of
Expand.
interesting because for different reasons. I'm not saying they're the same film, but I think that they complement each other in interesting ways because this movie, of course, well, let me I'm thinking of Ending Things, of course.
Yeah.
Spoilers for I'm thinking of ending things very briefly, skip ahead like 30 seconds maybe, but it's like of course it's all in the head of the man, right, the guy. It's like the
Yeah.
whole thing's like this fantasy where he's like meets the girl at trivia night or at the bar or whatever, and like he's fantasizing their relationship through the very end, and at the end it's like, oh wait, this just wouldn't work out because of the way that I am, you know. And then in Priscilla, the second that the movie starts, I'm like, this movie kind of feels like Priscilla's fantasy of like, what if I got to date Elvis? You know what I mean? Or like a
Yeah.
teenage girl at the time's fantasy of like, what if I got to date Elvis and like he really wanted, like he actually liked me? Like, what would happen? What would actually happen? And it kind of feels that like that kind of fantasy just like fantasized throughout the conclusion. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh,
Yeah,
at the
I
end, it's
think
like
I
I would
think
have to leave because that's psychotic. You know, like
yeah, I think there's like a concept of like desire is a big motif in the movie, I think, obviously. So it makes sense. And I think it makes sense to kind of frame it as this like fairy tale kind of dreamlike thing. In a way that like also I guess contributes to how like sinister it all really is because like that's what it is ultimately. Like we're watching, you know, like a young girl get taken advantage of and groomed and these are, you know, these are it's fucked up, but like yeah, that's something that a 14-year-old girl at the time would fantasize about is a life with Elvis. Like of course, the same way that, you know, 14-year-old girls now fantasize about movie stars and singers and whatever. Like it's just like that's the truth. So it makes it feel, I think, more sinister, kind of like presenting it to us this way as like this dreamlike thing because that's just what it is. Like it's like you've watched this, you know, kid who fantasizes about this person who she is in love with because of course, and then we see everything that happens as a result of it as she's taken advantage of and you know has all of this stripped from her, like this whole life stripped from her. um yeah, I agree. I think that's a good point. Is there anything positive or negative otherwise that you wanted to point out that you have not already?
no, I don't know. I think that it's interesting because we've brought this up before where we have a like a mutual that that has like that's pretty critical of Sofia Coppola, and like
Mhm.
their big criticism of Sofia Coppola's films are like, oh, all of her films are about like the struggles of being a wealthy white woman, and it's like that's also this movie, you know. As I was thinking about that, I was like,
Sure.
this movie is also about just like a wealthy white, like how bad it is to be this specific wealthy white woman, and I'm like, but I think this is interesting because it also this kind of goes into like loneliness is so, you know, it's so inescapable kind of
Yeah,
for
and it
like
exceeds any like class or anything. Like it's
yeah,
just a yeah. Um, which is like it's something I really like portrayed in film and television that I don't know people nail very often. Um, I think when you can relate to it, you want to see that depicted in a movie very well. I can't, I don't know that there's a whole lot of great examples. I think obviously, like, we've already done an episode on the Green Ray, which is like one of my favorite examples. Um,
yeah,
but I
that
don't know that a lot of like great examples of like depicting like something like loneliness exist. I would say for me, this is one of them.
sure,
I think it does do a good job depicting that. Um, Specifically because we don't really like, and which is something we already touched on, but we don't really see all of these like details of a life. We see like what it feels like to be confined within the walls of a house, like living among these people who you don't really like know or care for. Obviously, like the only person there that means anything to her is Elvis, who is not there half the time.
right,
Um, so I don't know. Yeah, I think it's a really good depiction of that.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Um, maybe she would have been happier if she got really into the philosophy books. Um, with
Philosophy
him,
books.
yeah.
That's silly. Um,
Do you want to talk about the news or?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was gonna ask if it so
Oh, okay,
that's
okay.
all as far as Priscilla goes for you.
Yeah, I mean, unless you wanted to talk about anything else, I feel like we kind of had
Yeah, I
a
think
good
I covered. I mean, I
conversation.
covered. I covered most of my. I covered most of. Actually, I covered everything I had written down. But yeah, my takeaway, I guess, is ultimately that what I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, which is that like as of right now, it's one of my favorite movies of the year, and I don't know that that's really gonna move all that much in the standings between now and 2 months from now. So I do think Priscilla is one of the best movies we've gotten this year, and I definitely would recommend that people go see it.
Yeah, it's worth seeing. It's not one of my favorite movies. I don't really love it, but I don't think it's bad. I just don't think that it's the most interesting movie in the world.
Sure.
But I think that's something that where it's like your mileage will vary
Yeah.
extremely. You know, like there's some people that some critics that are like kind of think this movie's a triumph.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll get into the news then. Before we do that, reminding people, as always, to share some feedback. If you liked listening to us talk about Priscilla, you can like, comment, subscribe if you're on YouTube. You can rate the episode if you're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And you can, of course, follow us on Twitter or join our Discord at the links in the episode description. Um, anyway, as far as strike news goes, we're not going to get into it this week specifically because last night, as of recording this, we know that the AMPTP gave SAG-AFTRA an offer that they're currently reviewing, and their response to this offer will probably be public by the time this episode comes out, but it's not at the time of recording this. So that's likely something we'll be covering next episode. But as for regular news, I guess we will start with kind of like the a funnier and dumb and I guess annoying piece of news, which is all of like the highs and lows of the past week as far as MCU news goes.
oh my god.
Because there is obviously at the start a big report that Marvel was considering bringing back the original Avengers, including Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, and Scarlett Johansson. And you pair that with like some Blade news, and then news that Marvel was planning on changing the lead villain of the next phase from Kang to what I don't even know what the other villain is, but it had a bunch
Kingpin?
of MCU fans. Yeah, it
What's
had a
up?
bunch of MCU fans kind of talking about how the MCU is fucked and over and blah blah blah.
Yeah, they were
Um,
all
and
saying
then,
the MCU is in shambles. The
yeah,
MCU
and
is
then
in
we got the trailer
shambles.
for Echo, and now they all changed their
And now it's like
mind.
we're so back. We're so
Yeah.
back. And it's like you guys are spineless. What
Yeah,
are you talking about?
I think it comes at a very funny time. I think the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I think it comes at a very funny time, which is like we get a good Marvel trailer when it doesn't mean anything.
I
Um,
think it's so funny how spineless and dumb these fucking losers are when it's like so Soups on his YouTube channel, right? He made that video, the MCU is in shambles, right? And
oh, I
then
saw the clip of, or I saw the image
thumbnail,
of the thumbnails.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then the next day he makes reacting to the Echo trailer, right?
yeah,
Very obvious that video was recorded months ago. All
right.
right. And then the video after that, he released a video saying like, Marvel, I'm so sorry for saying forever doubting you or whatever. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
dude, you watched the Echo trailer before you made that MCU was in shambles trailer
yeah,
or YouTube video. Like what like
yeah,
there's like what like what are we doing? Um I will say this, the MCU is cooked.
yeah.
Echo,
I
I watched
mean,
the trailer for Echo. It is a TV show that nobody's gonna fucking watch.
well, I don't know if nobody's gonna watch it, but
It,
I,
listen, it looks fine. I think it looks fine.
yeah,
It looks. Here's the thing.
it looks
Echo
like a,
looks like a
yeah,
real TV show, which is
yeah. That's what
different.
I was gonna say.
Yeah,
It's like if it came out at a time where I might have interest in anything that Marvel's putting out, then that would be cool. I
like
just think it's particularly funny that it comes out now when I, I just don't give a fuck.
yeah,
Like,
and it's like a lot of people were comparing Echo to Andor, and they're being like, "Oh, this is gonna be Marvel's Andor," and like I'm a big fan of Andor, but I'll say
yeah,
this: something that Andor has going that for it that Echo doesn't is that Andor has no Easter eggs basically. Like
yeah.
no it has like no basically no what's it called?
You could watch it on
Cameos.
it. You could watch it on its own, right?
Yeah, you could totally watch it on its own. It's also like Tony Gilroy, the author of the writer and director of Michael Clayton, is the
Yeah.
fucking
Like,
showrunner of
yeah,
Andor.
legendary filmmaker. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I mean, you could say that it looks like a real show, so you can compare it to the only other real Disney show. But it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, like you're setting yourself up for failure if you're like, oh, it's gonna be MCU's Andor. It's like it's not gonna be as good as Andor, guys. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I agree. Um, Next piece of news is something I would say I'm at least a little bit more excited for. We have an It Follows sequel titled They Follow is confirmed to be coming out from director David Robert Mitchell, the same director as the first one, and
yeah,
Michael Monroe, the lead, is also set to return. And listen, I'm not like as excited as some of these It Follows diehards because I don't love the movie. I just like the movie, but
I like the
it
movie
interests me.
too. I think it is fascinating. I think that the decision to make a sequel to It Follows is fascinating because I don't know, maybe I'm like missing something. A lot of these It Follows truthers are like, "Oh, finally, we've been waiting for this." And I'm like, "You've been waiting for it? Like why
Yeah.
like what do you mean you've been waiting for it? What are you talking about?" Like like you watched It Follows and you're like, "Man, I can't fucking wait to see what they do
Yeah, it's
next
like I
with
need
It
a
Follows
second.
2."
Yeah,
I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like
it doesn't really feel like a movie that that somebody should be expecting a sequel for.
especially
I mean, it's
because
cool
like
that
the
there is one.
monster in It Follows is like a metaphor for sexual abuse, you know? It's not like a
Yeah,
real fucking monster. Like
yeah. I don't know. It's like I said, I'm excited for it because I'm interested to see what comes of it.
yeah,
Um,
and like a new David Robert Mitchell movie is cool.
yeah, and I think in these past couple years, Micah Monroe as well has kind of like cemented a spot as a like good horror movie regular.
Hmm.
Like she's quite talented in that realm. Yeah, like I'm curious what it's gonna be like. I do think It Follows is a pretty interesting movie. I think it's pretty good. I know there's some people who uh frame it. I think there's a lot of people who frame it as like one of the best horror movies of the past couple years. I don't know that I feel that passionately about it. I'd
It's
also probably have to rewatch
good.
it. Um,
It has one of the
but
most memorable scenes in like a genre film I can remember in a while. Like that
yeah,
scene in the parking garage is really like really sticks with
really
you, I
good.
think.
Yeah, yeah.
Um
I think it has even. I'd go as far as to say maybe a few scenes that are really memorable. Um, I think,
um
yeah, I think it's a really good movie. So
part of
I'm
me also
interested.
okay, part of me also feels like all of the excitement around It Follows 2 feels almost disrespectful to the quality of the first It Follows.
Mhm.
Because it's like if it was announced by A24 that Ari Aster was directing Hereditary 2, I don't think that people would be excited about it. You know what I mean? I think people would be like, "Oh, what the like sellout hack fraud." Like, "Oh, guys, no, like it would all be like shit like that." Whereas like nobody's
Sure.
really saying that about It Follows too. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I get what you mean, but also like I don't know that. Yeah, I think if you think about like the mainstream at large, I wouldn't be surprised if the reaction to something like a Hereditary 2 would be like a lot of people being like, "I'm fucking pumped," like really
that
excited.
would be so
I
depressing actually.
I
That would be
I
so
think
depressing.
I think it's very like I mean it's a it's a movie that's like famously talked about as like one of the great horror movies of the past couple
Yeah,
of
well,
years. I think
it's
in like the
like
mainstream, I think a
a
lot of
modern
people
masterpiece kind
yeah, I think a
of.
lot of
Like
people would be like really excited for a sequel to that, whether that's a good thing or not. But I do think that that would probably be the reaction. I don't know,
I would hope
but I get
not.
your point. I get
That's
your
really
point.
sad actually. I would hope not.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess hopefully we never find out. But okay, next piece of news. Robert Pattinson will reportedly play a Patrick Bateman type character in Adam McKay's Average Height, Average Build. This would be, and I know that Owen pointed this out. He's not here with us, but this would be one of the best headlines we've seen in a while if you replaced Adam McKay's name with somebody else.
Yeah,
Like
like you would be
this
like,
would
"Oh
be
shit." Like it's like who's the best person to replace that line with?
just any good director, really. I mean, like we all obviously like, we have
Martin Scorsese.
okay. I don't know, but I think it's a first of all, hearing the phrase Patrick Bateman type paired with an Adam McKay movie is like kind of like nightmare fuel for me. Like that's like kind
Oh
of
no.
awful to think about. I think the idea of Robert Pattinson playing a Patrick Bateman type character is super intriguing.
Also,
But
Patrick Batesman like character. That's like is Batman not a Patrick Bateman like character
sure, yeah,
from a
I get
certain
what you mean.
perspective? You
I
know what
get
I
what you
mean?
mean. But
Like
I imagine this example is maybe like much more similar. You know what I
right,
mean? Like where
sure.
it's like it's a very clear parallel. I just like come on, that's such like the idea of Adam McKay making a movie about a character like that is just awful to think about. I mean, the idea of Adam McKay making a movie is awful to think
I
about.
don't Adam McKay is like because he did like I mean listen, he directed 6 episodes of Succession, and he
Sure,
wrote
yeah,
episodes of
which
Succession.
parts of like that blows my mind. It makes me sad to think that I like Succession because of his involvement in it. Like I'm like, how can
So
somebody who can make this do everything else that he's done?
yeah,
Like
I don't
it,
know. The movie's
it's
just gonna be bad though, probably.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, listen, Robert Pattinson's in it. I'm gonna watch it. It's also probably gonna be pretty popular because Adam McKay makes movies that are popular. Like that's just the thing that happens. People watch Adam McKay movies. People are
Yeah, I
gonna
mean,
watch
Don't
it.
Look Up was the fucking moment when it came out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, people are gonna see it, and Robert Pattinson's at the front of it. I love the fact that he agreed to be in an Adam McKay movie right after a Bong Joon Ho movie. Not really.
Hey, listen, one for them, one for you, Kevin. You know what I'm saying?
Right, sure, but I feel like I feel like a Bong Joon Ho movie could be a one for them kind of thing too. Like it's like I mean the guy just you know won like one of the biggest Oscars in history,
Yeah.
and like people are gonna watch Mickey 17. I hope people are gonna watch it.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I'm gonna watch it like a couple 40 million times when it comes
yeah,
out.
that's what I'm saying. So like I don't know. Whatever. I do think Robert Pattinson, as we talked about before, has a tendency to pick good projects. I don't know that this like whole Adam McKay thing is anything to panic about, but that's probably the least excited we've ever been about a piece of Robert Pattinson news on the podcast.
On the in the history of the podcast for
Yeah,
sure.
and maybe probably will be for a while. But anyway, this is a very interesting piece of news that I did not see on my feed, but I saw when I was going through. Alex Wolff will be directing a movie from his own script titled If She Burns, starring him, Victoria Pedretti, Asa Butterfield, and Justice Smith. It's described as a dark and sexy psychological thriller. Um, this sounds, to me at least, fucking awesome
Yeah,
because
no,
of the
this is
cast.
cool.
Like it's like a directorial debut for Alex Wolff, who we've talked about on our didn't we talk about Alex Wolff on our actors thing? Because he's only 25.
Yeah, we mentioned him. Yeah.
Yeah, so like Alex Wolff, only 25 years old, directorial debut from a script that he wrote with a cast that like gets me really excited. I mean, I like Asa Butterfield a lot, of course, because I'm a big sex education fan. I like Justice Smith a lot because I think he's really talented and like actually pretty awesome. I love seeing Justice Smith and stuff. Um, he's like kind of
Yeah,
low
no,
key one of
Justice
my
Smith
favorite
is really good.
actors.
I mean, he's awesome in
Yeah,
Dungeon and
exactly.
Dragon.
Yeah, and then Victoria Pedretti, I don't like. I know people love her. I don't. I'm not really
I
like
haven't
that
seen
familiar.
those shows she's in. She's in those shows people really like.
Yeah, she's in
The
You, right?
No, like
Or
the
no,
Haunting in
she's
Hill
in. Oh,
House.
well,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, she's in that as well.
Oh, is she in
But
You? I didn't know she was. Oh, she is
yeah,
in You.
she's one of the main characters in You. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't watch TV, so I'm not familiar with her. Asa
Yeah, I don't know. I
Butterfield's
mean,
really
she's
interesting though, because he hasn't been in a real movie in a fucking second.
right. Yeah, which will be. I don't know. I think it's a fun cast. I think the fact that he this is a fun cast, and it'll. I'm very interested to see what comes of an Alex Wolff movie. So anyway, our next little piece of news, and the only reason why I included this is because I saw a bunch of tweets about it this morning that were making me giggle, which is Luca Guadagnino is no longer developing a Scarface reboot, and I saw a bunch of people tweeting about how like how much they relate to him, just like and how often he starts projects and then like puts half of them away, like just decides not to do half of them.
Yeah, that's real. He's always
Yeah,
working, bro.
he's always working and he's not always finishing
Yeah,
that
but he
work.
is. I mean, he's like released a movie every year. I think since at
Yeah,
least
he's been
since
putting out stuff.
what's I think he's made a movie every year since that one movie.
Call Me by Your Name,
Yeah, Call Me
or
by Your Name.
I
Like I
don't know
think
if it's
he's
every year because Call Me by Your Name was 2017, and then
Suspiria was
Suspiria was 2018.
2018,
I guess you're right. I don't
and
know that he had
then
anything in 2019.
hold on.
There was something
Let's
between Suspiria and Bones and All, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. Hold
Um,
on. Luca.
at least I think. I don't know, but while Doug looks that up, yeah, I would say I was like, I don't know that I was that interested in the idea of his Scarface reboot, but I don't know that I wouldn't be interested in it at all. Like I do like him as a director, and I do like Scarface. I don't see why it's a
Yeah, I mean,
project I wouldn't have a little bit of interest in.
it would be good. No,
Um,
I'm dumb and a fraud. He did Call Me by Your Name, then Suspiria, then he did 7 short films, and then he did 7 short films or commercials, and then he did Bones
okay,
and All, and now we
but
have The
still, like he's
Challengers.
been doing a lot in a
Yeah.
number of years. But he's also this is like I think even over the course of the podcast, I feel like this is maybe the third time we've mentioned that he's like not doing a project anymore. Because I know there was another one at least that we mentioned on the podcast
Yeah.
that got canceled. So this is like a common theme now, I feel like. And these are like, these are big projects. Like Luca doing a Scarface reboot, like that's a big project. But
Yeah, I think that he shouldn't. I think it's good that he's not doing a Scarface movie. I think that he should
yeah,
keep doing. I think that stuff like Call Me by Your Name and The Challengers. And I haven't seen Bones at All, but for my idea of Bones at All is kind of like a similar thing, where it's like these kind of like movies, where like the plot is just like basically like YA, like for younger people having sex kind of thing, but like make it look really good. I think that's like his zone right there. He should just keep doing stuff like that.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, that makes sense. I guess Scarface doesn't really fall into that group, but yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was a funny thing to bring up. next up is that studios are in a bidding war for the rights to Britney Spears' memoir, The Woman in Me, to turn into a
Jesus
movie,
Christ.
TV series, or documentary. I saw this book yesterday because I was in Barnes and Noble. I didn't know the book was out. I remember hearing about it, but I didn't know it's like been released. I saw the book
Yeah.
in Barnes and Noble yesterday. It had its own big like display. I imagine a lot of people are reading it.
Yeah.
Uh, I am curious which of those three mediums it gets turned into between a movie, TV show, and a documentary. I think if it gets turned into a documentary, that would probably be pretty forgotten in terms of like, not that I mean, I love
Maybe.
documentaries,
I mean,
but
people watch documentaries, you know what I mean? Like as like if it
if
was
it's
a
like a documentary
docu-series,
series, yeah,
yeah, a
I think
docu-series on
people would
Netflix,
probably
that would be
watch
like
it.
more people would watch that than anything else. It would probably, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
that no, it would be really popular. Yeah. I don't know. What if whatever it is, I mean, there's a bidding war. Clearly it's probably a big deal. It's
all right,
probably
buddy,
a hot
cast Britney
thing.
Spears in the
No.
movie.
No. I don't even know who
Sydney
even
Sweeney.
I don't know. Yeah, okay. Well,
I don't know.
I don't know who comes to mind. I don't know that I could think of a good casting, but I will
uh,
watch it, whatever it
Mia
is, when it
Goth.
comes out. Oh, no.
Um, Zendaya.
Okay, we're gonna move
Um,
on. The second to last piece of news we have here: The Last of Us season 2, Euphoria season 3, and The White Lotus season 3 will all likely be coming out in 2025. So we will not be seeing any of these three major shows at all next
it's over
year.
for us, Kevin.
Um, I think this is these are like three of like the five premiere shows on television right now,
Yeah.
and none of them will be out for over a year.
Yeah, it's so over. It's
I
over.
think it's worth. I I'm curious what is going to capture the attention of the public in a post, Succession being over world, like some of these big shows that just ended, and now all these big shows being pushed to 2025. I'm curious what we get in 2024 that is going to really. I know House of the Dragon comes out
This
this
is
2024 summer, so that's going to be a big deal. But
the golden age, like the golden era of television is I think officially over now. Like
interesting.
I think it's over. Succession's ended, you know what I mean? Better Call Saul is over. Yellowstone is ending. Like it's like all of these fucking like prestige
And you
shows
know
that
what?
everybody
You know
watched,
what? Can I be
they're
honest?
done.
Can I be honest? I When I read this, I'm gonna watch all three of those shows I just named, by the way.
Yeah.
But when I read this, I don't feel very excited for any of them.
I'm excited for The Last of Us.
Okay, The Last of Us is, I'd say, is the one I'm the most excited about, I guess.
I'm interested
Um,
in Euphoria because I think Euphoria as a cultural artifact is really interesting.
yeah, same.
And
That's what I'm
with
saying. I'm
like
gonna watch all of them, but I think what you're saying probably has some significance in
yeah.
terms of like where we stand with TV right now. I don't know. I'm definitely. I don't know that it's like. I don't even know that this is I guess it is the golden age of television, but you could probably
Well,
also
it was. I think like it was
like
like
Sopranos era TV was also kind of a golden age where Sopranos and Mad Men and whatever were on at the same time.
I think what people were saying was like there was like a moment in time where like all of these amazing shows were happening at the same time and you could just watch the and it was they were also all on like streaming and it was like
Yeah,
everything was so accessible and like everything was like expensive and like being made and everything was quality and now it's like that's not happening anymore, you know.
yeah.
It's,
I don't. That, well, I think it's a good. It's interesting because I don't know that television is going to drop it all in popularity. If anything, it continues to rise, in my opinion. Like streaming stuff continues to rise, but I think we're seeing probably what is like a significant drop in quality from our most popular shows. Where like Succession ending, like that's a quality TV show. I
yeah.
feel like some of these like streaming shows that get put out that are doing like like massive numbers are kind of like nothing shows. And even some of
Like
the ones
Tulsa
that I
King.
even well, like I was gonna say, even some of the ones I like that are really popular just feel like they should not be the face of an era of television. Like something like Wednesday to me, which is like a show that I actually watched. Like I watched the whole first season of Wednesday and I think it's pretty fun. But I think the difference between living in a time where Succession is the best show on TV compared to the time where Wednesday is the best show on TV is pretty, which I don't know that Wednesday will ever be the best show on TV,
Well,
but you know what I mean? Like it feels
yeah.
drastic.
Well, TV is so interesting too, because like I watched like you said, like you like really like Wednesday, right? Or like but it's obviously not as good as Succession or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's like I similarly I really like the show. It's the last Taylor Sheridan show on Paramount called Special Ops Lioness. I've talked to you about this
Right.
before. I really
Yeah,
like
you
that
have.
show a lot. And apparently a lot of people watch it. Like I think like
Yeah.
Paramount said it was like the biggest, it's like their biggest original show by like a lot, by like an order of magnitude or whatever. And I'm like, I literally have heard
Never heard anybody talk
almost
about it. Yeah.
nobody talk about it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what's going on here? You know, like
Yeah, I just think I think for me, like my big takeaway is like and I think this is maybe more why I said I like wasn't as excited when I read about these shows coming out in 2025. Like these shows that I've been invested in for their entire run so far.
yeah.
Like I felt a bit of like depression and like hopelessness in some of my favorite shows all ending around the same time recently. Like I don't know that I've really recovered since Succession, Barry, and Ted Lasso all ended within the span of 3 weeks. Like that's a pretty like those are three of like my 10 favorite shows ending in the span of 3 weeks. And since then, I'll be honest, I've tried even the other day, like last week I have a big list on my phone because of like the the
Yeah.
the TV equivalent of Letterboxd, which I won't even name, um, is not a good app. But so I just have like a list of shows that I kind of like want to either watch or have started watching on my phone. And I the other day I went through the list and was just kind of marking them, trying to be like, okay, like this is a show that I want to continue watching. Maybe this is a show that like I'm not that interested in. And then I was like putting X's next to the shows where I'm like, I'm just not gonna go back to this unless I like really have to. And I was going through the shows and I was like, I just even the shows that I put checks next to, I was like, I don't really want to start binging any of these. Like I don't feel a desire to watch any shows right now. And I don't know if I'm just really enveloped in like watching as many movies as possible as but like that's how I always am. And I've still watched shows in the past. I don't feel a desire to binge a show right now. And I haven't felt like that for a couple months now since all of my favorite shows ended. So like I don't know. I think I'm waiting for something to come out that excite. I mean, even just now, Sex Education just ended, which is another
hmm
one of my favorite shows. Like it's like
Yeah.
everything that I really kind of cherish is coming to an end, and I don't know that I have like much shows that are currently running that I feel very strongly about at all. I'm pretty excited for House of the Dragon this summer. That's about it.
Yeah. I mean,
Like
the only show that's currently running that I am invested in at all is like Doctor Who. I like Doctor Who.
yeah,
That's coming back
yeah.
this month. And I like
Which that's exciting because that's Sex Education alum.
yeah, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what
Yeah.
he looks like as the fucking doctor.
I think he's great
Um
in Sex Education. I mean, I like,
yeah.
I don't know. I think he's one of the best actors in the show. So, um,
And the only other show that I really got into that's like is what I said, that Taylor Sheridan show
yeah,
Lioness, and it's like I have no idea if that's going to get another season. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
that's what I'm saying.
Like
Like, and I'll be honest, like most of the shows that I have been considering binging, or even recently have started binging, are old fucking shows. I just started watching Gossip Girl a couple of weeks ago.
that's
Gossip
a good
Girl is
show.
fucking 15 years old. Like
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not.
I'm gonna start watch. That's I'm also gonna start
Yeah.
watching an old show. I'm gonna start watching the Terminator show, the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
Okay.
that
Yeah,
from
I don't
like
know. Just
2008.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I just don't. I don't know. I'd obviously we could be having a totally different conversation a year from now if like 2024 ends up actually giving us some good TV to watch. But I don't know
Yeah.
that I'm super hopeful about the landscape of television right now.
No,
Um,
it's these fucking studios, bro. They suck
yeah,
ass. They're
yeah.
so bad.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing is that, if these shows were coming out sooner, maybe if some of these big shows were coming out in 2024, we might have a bit of a positive outlook, a bit more positive outlook, but I don't know.
But even
I
then, it's like,
still, yeah.
even I don't. I feel like Euphoria wasn't gonna come out this year or like in 2024,
Yeah.
regardless of the strike. You know,
Yeah, well, the thing
like
is, the and this report that I just mentioned, like it's Last of Us season 2 and Euphoria season 3 are both like confirmed 2025 shows. The White Lotus season 3 is, they said, it's probably coming out in 2025. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out at the end of 2024 or whenever.
yeah,
Um, Still, I would, like you said, I don't think that makes a difference really. And it's like that's a show I'm excited for. I liked White Lotus season 2 even more than I liked the first season. So maybe
yeah.
I'll like season 3 even more. I don't know. Like maybe it's only going up, but in general, I don't feel all that great about this whole thing. Anyway, our final little report I wanted to put in just to get you a little bit excited because I knew it was just going to be a me and you episode. There are rumors that a first look at George Miller's Furiosa, starring Anya Taylor-Joy, will arrive next month. It's
Yo,
only a rumor, but if we get a
yo.
first look, that's pretty cool.
So there's on TikTok, there's this Tiffany and Co. ad that I'll get
Mm.
sometimes where it's just Anya Taylor-Joy wearing jewelry.
Uh-huh.
And it's like a 30-second ad. I watch it all the way through and like it every time I get that ad. I get it like every time I go on TikTok now.
That's so crazy. This dude is liking ads on TikTok.
I, well, because it's like I would like to see more content like this. If it's just Anya Taylor-Joy wearing jewelry, going like, and like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's the kind of thing I like to see. I don't know, like this.
she probably won't be wearing much jewelry in Furiosa.
No, it's gonna
Um,
rock. I'm so
yeah.
excited. I'm so
Anyway, I
excited.
wanted to leave on that piece of news because I wanted to get you a little bit excited. Hopefully, we do get that first look so that maybe we can mention it on the podcast when we do. But
Yeah,
that
man.
will wrap up the episode. You can join us next week for episode 40, and we'll see you later.